Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a Q&A episode, and I have three questions I want to dive into. But first, before I do that, just want to go over a few things. So first, if you found this podcast to be helpful in any way, if you could leave a rating and review, and that will help more people find this podcast. Again, I want to continue to get this information out to more people. And so that's obviously done with the help of you guys, the listeners. And again, I appreciate everybody who listens there. So if you have taken anything away from this podcast, if you could just kind of give back and have let other people be able to listen to this as well. Again, like I said, I appreciate everybody who listens. Next, if you haven't yet, give me a follow on Instagram, Jeff, HOEHN_. That's where I'm most active on social media. So if you have any questions, you can just reach out to me there. If you have any questions on the podcast, something didn't make sense, that's where that's the easiest place to reach out to me and the quickest place for me to get back to you on anything. So with that out of the way, let's dive into it. And I actually have one more thing. So this is my first podcast back with a newborn. So again, nothing's going to change, but just thought I would mention that. I'm super excited. And actually, Allie is out right now, so I have the monitor next to me. So who knows, maybe we'll have to pause it, or you may hear a baby start crying at some point during this, but hopefully not. He's a really good sleeper. And I appreciate everybody who's reached out and congratulated me. It means a lot. And it's really cool to have that community aspect of it. So let's dive into it. Online with this, I am going to answer a question around like supplements that I'm going to add in during this period of time, especially with a newborn that comes with not great sleep, right? Very broken sleep. Luckily, I have a fantastic wife who's doing most of the things, but I still want to wake up with her and at least help her out in the middle of the night so she's not feeling like she's doing that by herself. But she definitely is the one that, has to stay up, right, to feed and everything. There's definitely been a few times where I've fallen asleep, even though I intended to stay up. But I can definitely feel like he's a good sleeper. So we've gotten great sleep, but I can definitely, feel the impact of not getting great sleep in my day to day. I just feel like a little bit more just heaviness, like a little bit more like kind of brain fog, right? But again, it's not anything detrimental, but I can just feel it. And I talked to one of my buddies about this. The downside with this is in the past, when you get a bad night's sleep, I would just look forward to getting that good night of sleep the next night. But unfortunately with this, it's relentless for at least a few weeks, right? There's really no short-term end in sight with it. So that's the downside. With that, I want to go over some supplements that I am adding in. And then I just want to go over my supplement stack right now, because I think it would be for anybody who's going through the same thing or is going to. Sleep is going to be impacted, and it can impact your cravings. I recently shared some studies on my Instagram page, and basically when we are sleep deprived, we do tend to want tastier foods, and these are going to be more calorie dense. So really that leads to likelihood of an increase in body weight, just because again, your calorie balance is going to be out of whack. And then another study showed that people do start to prefer more like sweet foods as well, which again is going to lead to these probably hyper palatable foods that pack a lot of calories, which is just going to make it easier to gain weight. And then on top of it, you may be less motivated to train. And then if you have a job, like you need to make sure you're on point from that perspective as well too, right? You need to make sure that you are able to do your job. And then it's just good to make sure that you can make the best decisions possible throughout the day, and sleep definitely impacts that. So again, it's one of those things where sleep's going to be impacted, but then it's like, how can we make the best out of that situation? A lot of times people just brush it off as, hey, sleep just can't be good. So it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. But it's like, hey, we can still do certain things here to try to make things better. This kind of reminds me of the kind of thought process of, oh, this is how my genetics are. This is just how it's going to be. It's okay. Yeah, maybe they don't work for you, but again, we can still try to make the best of the situation. And I think that's the best way to go about things. So I'm going to go over some supplements that I am taking, that I normally take, and then that I added in. So I'll just start with the ones that I'm adding in. So the two that I'm adding in are rhodiola and ashwagandha. And so why am I adding these two in? So I've taken ashwagandha in the past. Ashwagandha, it's a herb and it's an adaptogen. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and it can help you regulate stress essentially, right? Like it helps you adapt to it a bit more. So any of the downsides of stress can help with that, right? So again, the anxiety, again, potentially the cravings, just that kind of wired feeling, and anything that, again, the lowering of the cortisol, which again, we want some cortisol and it's good to have that. But if it's always high or we always have it, so it's always there, that's where it can start to potentially impact us a little bit. So ashwagandha can help that, and it can help you adapt to stress, which is going to be key during this time, right? Because again, high stress can lead to, again, lower motivation, higher levels of anxiety. It can lead to poorer like just choices overall, right? And then the stress is one of those things where it's like the more you have, the more stressful everything is, right? And then it can also impact sleep. So again, this is where ashwagandha can be helpful, right? I do think it's something where probably taking it you probably don't want to take it 24/7, 365. I think it's probably best to periodize it. And so definitely during this period of time, I'm going to be taking it with that. It also can, so it is backed by several randomized double-blind placebo-controlled human clinical trials. So like they have done research on this in humans. It can also reduce the immunosuppressive effect of stress, and it could help improve physical performance. Okay, so again, one of the negatives of higher stress is the build, like your body's at a higher risk of getting sick, right? So again, we want to make sure by taking ashwagandha, it can help lower that and it can help reduce that. And again, when we're getting poor sleep, high stress as well too, your training performance may suffer, which could in the long term improve your body composition. So again, it can help improve that during this period of time of high stress. So you're going to look at, it does depend, right? There's KSM 66 and Sensoril. We're looking at 300 to 600 milligrams of KSM 66 and about 125 to 250 milligrams of Sensoril there. So that's, as far as specific brands, I'm going to leave that up to you. I don't want to promote any specific brand or anything like that. But yeah, those would be the dosage is there. I believe I do take the Sensoril version of it, and I just take one capsule of that. The next one that I added in, I've never taken before, but I've been intrigued by it, is rhodiola. So basically, it's been used as a dietary supplement in healthy populations, including athletes, to non-specifically enhance the natural resistance of the body to both physical and behavior stressors for fighting fatigue and depression. So again, we're looking at it can help fight fatigue and depression. So it can help with your training, it can help you manage stress, and it can help lower your feelings of fatigue. You can see the benefits in as low as doses of 50 milligrams, but you can go as high as, again, in some studies, as high as 250 to 650 milligrams, somewhere in that range. So again, it's just another herb that is going to help manage fatigue. And again, so far it's been helpful. I've gotten good sleep. Not good sleep, but I've gotten fairly decent sleep for what's going on. And other than that kind of minimal kind of like brain fog and just general, okay, I'm a little tired, I have felt pretty good. Again, this would be something that I would potentially look at. I think right now I'm just taking 100 milligrams. I'm not doing anything crazy. Could be something maybe where I mess around this dosage a little bit and increase it. So those are the two supplements I'm adding in. And again, it's just to help manage the stress side of things. Another thing that can really help during times of not great sleep is creatine. But that's one of my basic supplements that I'm going to have all clients take at any time. But creatine monohydrate, take 5 milligrams daily with that. Timing of it, you can take it whenever, as long as you just stay consistent with it. But it can obviously help training performance, can help with strength and muscle growth. But there's also some potential cognitive benefits, and it seems like those cognitive benefits can also show up under times of when sleep isn't great. But this is one that having all clients take at any time. That's one of my foundational supplements. But the rest of these are the foundational ones. And the first two, the ashwagandha and the rhodiola, are just during this specific period of time. So the other ones are going to be fish oil, right? Supplementing with fish oil provides a significant reduction in triglycerides. It may provide a modest increase in HDL and a modest reduction in blood pressure in those with hypertension. It can help with specifically for somebody who is breastfeeding or pregnant. It can increase a child's IQ at age 4. So again, there's that. It also helps lower inflammation, and it can potentially help in depression as well too, especially in those with higher inflammatory markers as well. And it can potentially help increase insulin sensitivity as well. So again, this is one of my like basic kind of supplements that I have all clients take there. And the American Heart Association recommends 1 gram combined EPA and DHA daily for those effects that I talked about with that. So again, fish oil is another one that is going to be a foundational supplement. Next, we have vitamin D. This critical hormone controls roughly 1,000 genes within the body, and not having levels optimized has far-reaching implications. Its functions include calcium and phosphorus homeostasis, and therefore bone health, and it has roles in immune system health as well. It also has roles in metabolic health, cardiovascular health, gut health, and skin health. Again, the main source is sunlight. So again, if you don't get a lot of sunlight, probably something you want to supplement. It is found in some food sources, right? So cod liver oil, salmon, and trout. However, to achieve the adequate levels that we need, you need to get about 1 pound or more of these fish per day at a minimum. So going to be pretty tough, right? Suboptimal levels may lead to lethargy, lower bone mineral density, fatigue, mood alterations, increased risk for autoimmunity, lower immune function in general, a moderate increase in blood pressure, lower sex hormones, higher androgens in women, insomnia, and increased risk of other forms of cardiovascular disease, not D's. So again, things that are going to, obviously being inside a lot is going to be one where you have this kind of this higher kind of risk of vitamin D, of it being low, darker skin pigmentation, chronic sunscreen use to there. Again, this is one where you can get your levels checked just to make sure, but probably for most people, a base dosage of about 1,000 IUs, I think is safe for most people. And probably if you live in a place where you're not getting a lot of sunlight, we probably want to go a little bit higher with that. And then the final one that I have two more. Another important kind of vitamin mineral that I want to have people take is magnesium, particularly glycinate is one. And again, this is an important mineral with a high prevalence of deficiency. Estimated that roughly 56 to 68% of people do not get the RDA of magnesium per day. Basically can help with muscle contraction, cardiac excitability, nerve transmission, neuromuscular conduction, ATP metabolism, protein synthesis, blood glucose control and insulin metabolism, blood pressure regulation, and DNA and RNA synthesis. Signs and symptoms of some deficiencies would be cardiac arrhythmia, palpitations, weakness and fatigue, ataxia, which is loss of full control over body movements, muscle twitches and spasms, low blood levels of calcium, and related disorders such as tetany and osteomalacia as well too. So again, this is one where it's important. We don't get a lot of it in our diet, and a lot of people are low in it, right? Glycinate, malate, and citrate seem to be the best absorbed and are the best for raising general magnesium status. Glycinate may help with insomnia as well. So that's one where, again, this is one that I typically have clients take. I like glycinate the best, and it can help with sleep, which is awesome as well too. Good sources from food include all dark leafy greens, seeds, legumes, tuna, mackerel, and dark chocolate. So again, this is one that I have clients take regularly, and this is a base one. And then the last kind of base supplement is going to be multivitamins. And with that, it's just going to cover our bases with everything. These are the ones I want people to take. And then multi, hey, if you want to spend a little bit more money, if maybe you just want to make sure all your bases are covered for sure, getting a good solid multivitamin is important. So just to sum this up, during the sleep restricted time, I'm adding in ashwagandha and rhodiola. And then outside of that, the supplements that I'm having every client take is going to be creatine, monohydrate, fish oil, vitamin D, magnesium glycinate, and potentially a multivitamin on there. So let me know if you have any questions on that. And that's it for that question. My next one is how to stay motivated. I think this is great because this is one where I find that people who are newer to fitness and nutrition and their fitness journey, they're always looking for that motivation. Hey, what can I do to stay motivated? What can I do to get motivated? And I think really it's just going to come and go, right? There's really no way around it. It's just going to come and go. And I think that's the first thing, is understanding that if you just rely on motivation and you just do things when you're motivated, you're going to be inconsistent. And this is where I think a lot of people get themselves into that trap, is they feel like they need to be motivated. They think that people that like work out for, they've always worked out, they're just like super motivated all the time, and they just have this endless amount of motivation. And I'll tell you what, that is not true. That couldn't be farther from the truth. There's periods of time where, working out seems more like a chore and kind of a job for me versus something that I am motivated to do. But there's times where I am motivated. Again, I think everybody goes through this, and you just have to understand that motivation isn't always going to be there. It's okay. Obviously, ride that wave when the motivation is there, but when it's not there, that's where we need to push through. You need to push yourself a little bit more. And I do find that people who see results and keep those results, they're the ones that can still push through even when they aren't motivated. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you just are relying on motivation, you're going to be inconsistent. And I think it's being aware of that. And then second, just understanding that you're not always going to be motivated. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with you if you're not motivated for a day or two or a week or two or a month or two. It's just part of the process. But we have to understand that we need to push through during that period of time. So what's the best way to stay motivated and get motivated? It's by doing whatever it is you need to do right? You just need to get it done. But you have to do it. Again, this could be where if you are like, oh man, I'm just not motivated. What do I do? And it's when's the last time you did X? I haven't done it. All right, you need to just go and do it. The best way to build motivation and to stay motivated is to keep doing the thing, right? So that's the first thing. That's easier said than done. But I think again, if we come into this kind of under being aware that it may not always be there, I think it can help you during these periods of time. I also think you need to make sure your goals are aligned with what you want and the sacrifices you're willing to make. If there's some sort of mismatch there, I could see where maybe you're not going to be motivated. So maybe you need to rethink your goals and what you want. Maybe it's you need to have something that you're working towards right now. Maybe it's, hey, maybe that what I thought I wanted is not what I wanted. And I need to reevaluate that, right? That could be the case. Some other things I talked about sleep and stress, that's going to be a big one too. If that's off, you probably are going to be less motivated. So if you're finding that you're not motivated, look at your sleep. Is that something that could be improved? Just because again, if you're tired, you're not feeling great. Like I could certainly see where that makes you less motivated there. So this is something like outside of just doing things and understanding that motivation isn't always going to be there. Stress as well too, right? If you just have a ton of stress and you're not managing that stress in a healthy way, I could also see where that lowers motivation, making sure that that's in check as well too. But in terms of, I'm jumping around here, but going back to the just doing things, this is where maybe you just need to dial back what you're trying to do that day or that week, right? So it's, hey, I'm trying to hit 5 workouts a week. Okay, maybe we just bring it down a little bit. Let's just go for 3 workouts a week. Start there. So then that way you can get some momentum going and then you start to build that motivation, because if you're just waiting to be motivated, it's not going to happen. So you maybe need to drop down your expectations of yourself of what you need to do. Maybe it's, hey, instead of an hour and a half workout, I'm just going to do a 45-minute workout again, because we need to build that momentum and that's going to lead to motivation. And then once you have that momentum, it's easier to keep it going. And then understanding that, hey, there's going to be times where I need to just push myself a little bit more to stay motivated. But ultimately, you get motivated by doing and not relying on it to be there 24/7. So hopefully that helps. Again, it's just to sum this up, it's understanding that if you're relying on motivation, you're going to be inconsistent. 2, understanding that it's not always going to be there. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to do things. So maybe that's you dropping down your expectations of what you're going to do that week, whatever it is, but we need to do something. We need to keep things moving there. Sleep and stress also play a big role in this as well too. And then lastly, maybe you need to reevaluate what your current goals are and what you are looking to do. Again, maybe it just doesn't line up with the sacrifices you're willing to make or the work you want to put in or whatever it is. And again, just reevaluating that can be super helpful as well. All right, so that's it for that question. Let's see here. All right, so when reverse dieting, how to know how long you should be pushing calories before another cut. So again, a reverse diet, this is going to be something where I think first we need to, there's a lot of definitions of a reverse diet. So a reverse diet is just a period of time where you're adding in calories, right? So maybe you just finished a cut and you're adding in calories to get back to your maintenance. And that's how I typically do it. You could reverse diet up to a surplus if that's what your goal is. But most of the time when I say what a reverse diet is, I'm specifically talking about just bringing your calories up to back to maintenance, right? Whether we do that slowly or we just go straight there. That's the context I'm thinking of is, okay, so you did a cut, now you reverse diet back up. Again, I wouldn't want to know your specifics in terms of what your goal is. Like, are you trying to get into a surplus? Or are you just trying to stay at maintenance? Whatever that is. Or is it, hey, I'm just trying to take a break before I go back to my next cut? I think understanding what your goal is during that time is going to be super important. But I think really what I want to do here is go from this standpoint of, okay, how do you know you're ready to go back to a cut? Because I think people want like a specific time and it's really hard to give that. Okay. So the main thing I'm looking at with this in terms of like, all right, you dieted, we brought your calories back up, whatever that is, whether that's a surplus, whether that's just you wanted to take a diet break to maintenance, whatever it is. Now, if it's like, all right, how do we know we're ready to get back to a cut? If you did want to do a surplus, you probably want to spend a good amount of time there. You wouldn't want to just get back to it. But let's say that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to go back into a cut at some point. The main thing I'm looking at is the client's biofeedback. Okay. So we're looking at hunger. What's that? Is it still super high? All right. We still probably have some things we need to work on here. Cravings. Are those still super high? Again, that could be a sign that we need to work on something before we go back into a deficit. Your training performance is solid. If you still haven't really regained that, again, we probably still have some room here to be outside of a deficit. Mentally, you're in a spot to where you're like, all right, I'm ready to go again. If you don't feel that way, probably not a great spot for you. We probably need to stay out of a deficit for a period of time, a little bit longer. Your libido, right? If that's still not there, again, probably a sign that deficits, this isn't the greatest time for a deficit. And then for women, making sure your menstrual cycle is regular. So if this is something where you fat loss dieted, it got a little irregular, we want to make sure that's in a good spot before we jump back into a deficit there. And so the time frame on this is going to depend on those things, but it's also going to depend on how lean you are. So the leaner you are, that's going to be something where a lot of these things are probably going to be out of whack. So we may need to spend a little bit more time reverse dieting. How long you dieted for? Yeah, how long your diet was before, right? Was it like, hey, you did this for 12 weeks, or you did it for 6, or you did it for 40 weeks? That's going to play a big role as well, too, right? If you did it for 40 weeks, I don't think 3 weeks is going to be enough. If you did it for 6 weeks, you could probably get away with a 3-week period of time of taking a break. So I think that's going to be important. And then how large the deficit was too. How quickly did you lose that weight? And I think that's definitely going to go hand in terms of like how lean you are, how long you dieted for, et cetera. But again, the more like drastic it was, you probably need a little bit more time to recover with that. So those are some things that I'm taking into consideration, right? I think a lot of times when people talk about being out of a fat loss phase, they really want that like black and white answer of, okay, so if you dieted for 8 weeks, you can be out of it for 4 weeks before you go back. But really, we need to be looking at your biofeedback. We need to be looking at how long you dieted for. The depth, duration, and frequency of your diet is going to play a role here as well too. That's how I go about that. All right, so I wanted to add in a bonus one. That was the third question, but I did want to add a bonus one in because I think this is a good topic here. When it comes to BMI, so body mass index, do you think it's helpful or not due to the amount of muscle? I personally don't use it with clients. I don't really see the point of it, right? But I also don't think it's like completely useless either, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's just stupid. It lies. It doesn't tell you anything. I have all this muscle. And I also don't think it's completely useless either. Okay. Let me pull up the kind of categories here. All right. So we have, which is a BMI under 18 and a half. Then we have normal weight, 18 and a half to 24.9. And then we have overweight, 25 to 29.9. And then we have obesity, which is a BMI of 30 or greater. This definitely does not take into consideration your body mass, like your body composition, right? And that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But at the end of the day, this is where I'm, okay, so if you're under 18 and a half, it's okay, you probably do need to gain a little bit of weight, right? If your BMI is greater than 30, okay, we probably need to drop some body fat, right? No matter what your body composition is. And so this is one where I feel like if you're on these kind of extremes, it's okay. It's you already know, and you probably do need to improve it. Now, where things maybe where it's less useful is for people who maybe are in the normal weight to overweight range there. So think of this on a spectrum. Somebody who's over 30 BMI, it's okay, you may have a decent amount of muscle, right? But from an overall health standpoint, it would be helpful from an overall health standpoint to bring this down a little bit. But again, I would imagine people already know that. So it's already telling us what we know. And so that's where I think it's like, it can be useful, but it's also, it's just something I don't use, because this is another thing that kind of labels things, and it can get in people's heads with that. So for example, if you're on the fringe of like overweight, so let's say you're, again, overweight's a BMI of 25 to 29.9. So for example, I did mine yesterday. I think I'm at like 20. Let me put this in real quick and just see. So I'm at a BMI of 25.8. So technically I'm overweight at 165. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like I do have some body fat right now, but I don't have a lot. I'm probably somewhere between 10 to 15% body fat, probably closer to 12 to 15 than 10. And so for me, I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to drop weight now, right? I need to I'm fine here. Now, if I was 5'7", and let's see what it would take for me to get to, and I'm 200 pounds, okay, at that point, that puts me at a BMI of 31.3. Okay, I probably need to drop some body fat, right? And I think from an overall health standpoint, even if I say I did have a ton of muscle, probably from an overall health standpoint and long-term health, that's still a little high. So you would want to get that down a little bit there. But we don't want this to be like the only thing that we're focused on, where it's, I have to get to 25, because again, that doesn't take into body composition, because then this is where people just start to lose weight, and it's okay, cool, now I'm at a normal weight. But you're at a normal weight, but now you lost a lot of muscle in that process. So this is why I'm saying we want to make sure that we use it, but it's also not, I don't use it with clients. because again, we're already going to know where they're at, but it's also not completely useless either there. Again, this is where if you're somebody that is on that fringe there of that weight, you're probably looking at progress pictures, waist measurements, biofeedback, blood work is going to be better indicators than using BMI. But if you're in the obese or higher category, you could probably stand to lose at least a little bit of body fat while maintaining and building some muscle. With everything, it is context dependent, but I've never used it with clients. I don't plan on doing it. And I just find that sometimes these things can just get in people's heads. But like I said, if you're way off on it, definitely a sign that, hey, from overall health standpoint, you could probably improve your body weight there. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that gives you some insight into BMI and my thoughts on it. But that's it for me. And I will chat with you guys next time. I guess before I let you go, I have a couple things that I want to talk about. So first I have my free masterclass on nutrition periodization. So I go over each nutrition phase, what it is, how to do it, how to set it up, common mistakes, adjustments, everything you need to know about each nutrition phase. The link to that is in the show notes. And again, it's completely free. I have my free masterclass on body recomp, what it is, how to do it. Again, the link to that is in the show notes as well. And then lastly, if you have any questions on what supplements to take, how to know if you're ready to go back to a fat loss phase, how to make sure you're, what to do when motivation's low, then my free 30-minute strategy calls for you. The link to that is in the show notes. And I look forward to the next episode, and I'll chat with you guys next time.